4, and we are in the fifth to last line on the page. Time Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Mishum Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said, "Nei Rabbi Meir, Hayadayim tchil l'chulin, Yadayim hands." Now this is the origin. This Mishnah, if you look back at the beginning of the Mishnah, says no li Yadayim. This is the origin of the halacha of washing one's hands before eating. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, "Nei Rabbi Meir, Hayadayim tchil l'chulin." The hands, their tumah is only d'Rabbanan. Because from Torah, either you're all tamei or you're not tamei at all. You can't have just your hands be tamei and not the rest of your body. So the concept of the hands being tamei and not the rest of your body is a rabbinic concept altogether. So when they gave that rabbinic concept of tumah to your hands, they did it in gradations. Okay? So Rameir says at the time, when they said that your hands are tamei until you wash them, in order to make chulin tamei, your hands have to be considered to be a rishon, first level tumah. Because chulin, regular stuff, which is not as no degree of sanctity, only goes to second degree tumah. It doesn't go any lower than that. So if your hands are only second degree tumah, they wouldn't make regular stuff tamei. And v'shnios l'truma. However, truma is third degree tumah as well. So therefore, vis-a-vis truma, they could say your hands are second degree tamei. So they actually gave your hands the minimal status necessary in order to require them to wash them. Require you to wash them. So therefore, vis-a-vis non-kodesh, non-holy stuff, they gave it status of being first degree. Vis-a-vis stuff which is somewhat holy, they gave it status of second degree. Says Gemara, wait a minute. That means that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar holds that there is a concept of hands which are first degree tumah. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Akiva, is Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar's opinion like that of Rabbi Akiva, that thing Tamam which you learned over there. This is an interesting case. You stick your hands, let's say this base medrash had leprosy in the walls. So of course anybody who went to the base medrash would become, some people obviously hold that way about this base medrash, but let's say, so anybody who entered this base medrash would then become tamei, right?
Leprosy in the walls meaning?
A stain, a blotch on the wall, which was leprosy. It's some sort of fungus in the house. Yeah, it's a fungus which is renders the house defiled. Okay, we don't know exactly what it is. So in any event, so let's say it had. So then, if you come into the room, you become tamei. If you stick your hands into the room, then d'oraisa on the Torah level, nothing happens to you, because that's be the majority of your body, your torso, and your head have to enter the room. But Rabbi Akiva said, nevertheless, if you stick your hands into the house which has this leprosy in the walls, your hands become tchila, they become first degree tamei. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. Chachamim say no. Yodov shnios. There's no such thing as first degree tumah on hands. Hands at best can be second degree tumah. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar must hold like Rabbi Akiva that hands can become first degree tumah. Says Mar, no, Karabanan it could be the Tamon. It could be that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar holds like Rabbanan. Could be holds that hands are normally second degree tumah. So what over here? So why over here do we say that he has to that his hands vis-a-vis chulin, vis-a-vis regular stuff, are first degree tamei, is an incentive to get him to wash. Matamun, top of Yud Gimel Amadav, top of 25. Matamun Hacha. Why over here did they say his hands are tchilos? According to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, his hands are first degree. Because since you tell him his hands are second degree tumah, truma is going to separate itself from truma. And, although this is not explicit, since we tell him that his hands are tchila vis-a-vis tchulin, so therefore he's going to separate himself and wash before he eats regular stuff as well. So therefore, it could be that normally Hashem Elazar holds that hands are second degree tamei. But in order to get you to wash before you eat, he had to say that hands are first degree tamei prior to eating even regular stuff, in order to make sure that you wash your hands beforehand. Now, of course, the question is, why do we care if you wash your hands? What difference does it make to us? So the answer the Gemara is going to give us later on. We don't know right now. but we'll see in a few minutes. Says Mara, wait a minute, I got another question. One of the reasons, or if not the primary reason, why hands are tummy is because hands very often have beverages on them. And beverages transmit tumah very easily. If your hands are moist, it transmits tumah very easily. Because, for example, a fruit can only become tummy once it becomes moist, right? If it never became moist, it can't become tummy. So therefore, if your hands are moist, so then it transmits tumah very easily. So therefore, and as part and parcel of that decree, to keep you away when your hands are moist, when anything's moist from you, so there we made a decree that the mashkin, the moisture on your hands is always considered to be a rishon first degree tummy. So now the question is, let's consider all hands, not themselves first degree tummy, but let's consider them first degree tummy because they might have mashkin tmeim on them. They might have tummy beverages on them. So it's not like this, but like this. Indirectly, let's say that every hand, since potentially they have impure liquids on them, let's consider them vis-a-vis halzah as if they are tchilos, right? It says the Gemara, we can't do that. I'll tell you why. It would make hands too stringent. Kavachom. We have a logical construct which prevents us from doing that. Mindful yom, on the third line down. Mindful yom, shud Torah. A person who had an emission. He had some sort of seminal mission, and now he went to the mikvah. But we know that in order to become tummy from having tahar, purified from having an emission, you also have to wait till nightfall. So between the time that he went to the mikvah and nightfall, he's a tvul yom, right? He's the status of quasi tahar, quasi tummy. If at that time he touched something, so he renders the truma unfit. Because he has the status of second degree tummy, but he doesn't have the status of first degree tummy. So that status of a Torah tumah is second degree tummy, not first degree tummy. They couldn't take hands and make them any more severe than tvul yom. There's a glass ceiling underneath tvul yom. That if the deraisa problem of tvul yom will not render you any more than a second degree, they couldn't take a rabbinic thing and make it first degree. Now, of course they could have, right? We know the rabbis can do anything they wanted to, but they didn't want to do that because that would be too strange. Okay? So it says, mindful yom shud var Torah. The some of you just Mercel Mikvah has not yet had a nightfall upon him, which is a Torah level. He's only a second level tummy, which renders truma unfit, but it's not the same thing as the first degree, which makes it tummy. Yodayim shein divrayim. His hands, which are the rabbanon lo koshkin, there certainly should be no better than second degree to a tummy. So it's davrachim. Another reason, which was another interpretation, is klum gazu al yadayim. Why they make the decree against hands? Lo kadei shea bottom in a truma. Why they should separate himself from his truma when he's potentially tamei. Mitoshat omer lo shu yodav trishnios. So for that reason, even if you tell him his hands are second degree, afu bottom in a truma, he'll separate himself from the truma. So therefore, you never have to say that his hands are going to be tchilos. In other words, the reason why his hands should be first degree is in order to get him separate himself from truma. But anyway, he's going to separate himself from truma because he's second degree. And second degree is also promised to be truma. So therefore, they never felt the necessity to upgrade him to first degree tummy. Okay? Talmud we learned over there.
Is it upgrade or downgrade?
A downgrade. Talmud we learned over there. Truma v'abikurim means more severe. Truma v'abikurim. Truma, which is of course the tithe which is given to the Kohen and is quasi holy. Bikurim is the first fruits which is brought to the Beis Hamikdash and given to the Kohen, also quasi holy. Chayom aleim, if you are a non-Kohen and you consume it, chayom aleim misa, God smites you down dead. Not the Beis Din, but God. The chomesh, you have to pay if you did it unintentionally, you give the Kohen a restitution and an extra fifth tacked on top. It's kind of like a fine. And then also besides that, it also requires a sur lazorim. Of course, the reason why you have these is because it's forbidden for a non-Kohen to eat. Vei nichsei Kohen, they belong to a Kohen. If a measure of truma or a bikurim falls into a mixture, you need 100 parts corresponding to that measure of truma to cancel out and make the mixture permissible. Utunim rechitzas yadayim, you have to wash your hands before you eat them. Five shemesh, and if you had an emission, you have to wait till night falls after going to mikvah in order to eat them. Harei elu b'truma yikurim, these are all true by truma and bikurim. Masha ein came b'maiser, as opposed to meiser. For meiser, one does not have to do any of these things. Now, for the tithe given to a for the tithe which is brought up to Yerushalmi to eat in Yerushalmi, so for that you don't have to do any of these things. So it sounds like from meiser you don't even have to wash. Yet, Tamanat Omar, Eina Meiser Toh Rechitza, there in the price we just quoted, it sounds like you don't, or in the Mishnah we just quoted, it sounds like you don't have to wash for eating Meiser. Yet in our Mishnah it says, you say that Meiser does require washing, so it's a difficult concept. So the Bavli actually answers, although the Yerushalmi does not give this answer. The Bavli says that depends if it's bread or fruit. Our Mishnah is talking about Meiser Sheni put into the form of bread. It's been baked already, and there they made the takona. They made the decree. Anytime you go to eat bread, you have to wash beforehand, right? There it's talking about when it's still in the form of fruit. The bikurim or the truma. Or the Meiser Sheni. In our case, they didn't require the washing. However, the Yerushalmi gives a different answer. Sham says, Hein Omar, that Mishnah says, HaMeiser Tzormuchu Chitza, they have to wash for you eat our Meiser, you eat Meiser Sheni. You eat that second tithe brought up in Yerushalayim to consume there. So that is Rabbanan. Rabbanan, that's going according to Rabbanan. Hein da'adomar, that's what you say. Eina meiser torah rechitza, you don't have to wash your hands beforehand. Rabbi Meir, that's very Meir. The Tiyaton, notes over there. Ka'atom bios mayim, we do very sofrim. Anything which you have to go to the mikvah midrabanan on a rabbinic level for having come into contact with someone makes you tell midrabanan. Mitame es hakodesh, it renders kodesh, renders holy stuff unfit. Uposos are truma, and it renders truma not just unfit, but renders it tummy. It renders truma unfit, but it doesn't make it tummy in the sense that it goes and makes something else tummy. And however, if it touches the self-same rabbinic tuma, touches chulin, regular stuff, or meiser, the meiser sheni brought up to Yerushalayim, then it's not a problem. Divrei Meir, Konrad Meir. The Chachamim Omri, Chachamim Osrin b'Meiser. Chachamim say that that's not true by Meiser. Neither for Meiser, you cannot eat the Meiser as long as you're tummy the Rabbanan. Even though you tummy the Rabbanan, you can't eat the Meiser. So says the Gemara, "Lo shmiya." One second.
So that's like our Mishnah.
Mm-hmm.
Just to bring down.
Right. That would say you don't have to wash. The Mishnah over there in Bikurim it says you don't have to wash. That's like Rameir. Our Mishnah is like Rabbanan who say you do have to wash. Okay?
There's no difference in Mishnah between the two.
Oh, sure. I mean, not the editor is the same, but he attributed different Mishnayos and different tractates of different authors. The editor is Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, but the authors are different authors. Am I making myself clear? You can have the same Mesechus. You can have different authors of Mishnayos. The only thing which is uniform is the editor.
As to both Talmudim.
Yes. All tractates the same. Rabbi Yehuda Nossi.
Is there a consistent pattern that you can see between difference between Bavli and Yerushalmi?
Well, in the Mishnah, it's not going to be a difference because that preceded the divisions of Bavli and Yerushalmi.
So they will be the same.
Almost. There are some differences. but basically not. Very few. There are some differences, and the differences we have don't necessarily come from that time. They could have crept into the text later on, been corrupted over time. So they're essentially there should be no difference because the Mishnah is all one unit. So it says the Gemara. V'lo shmiya, I didn't hear the Amar Rabbi Shmuel b'shem Rabbi Zira. Rabbi Shmuel said name Rabbi Zira. Ma v'chachamim osrim b'maiser. What is that? It says the chachamim forbid you to eat maiser. Nivso gufo le'achol maiser. That your body has become unfit to eat maiser, but that you're not mataming the maiser when you touch it. So if that's the case, this is what we have to say. That which says you have to wash before you eat the meiser, but it's when you want to eat it. Which says you don't have to wash is when you just want to touch it and not eat it. So this is a very interesting concept. By truma, regardless of whether you're going to eat it or touch it, you must wash your hands before you come into contact with it. By Meiser Sheni, the tithe brought Yerushalmi to Yerushalmi, you can touch it if you're not going to eat it. But if you're going to eat it, you have to wash before you touch it. Okay? It's an interesting distinction.
So once you touch it, you can't eat it. Unless you've made the prior decision you want to eat it.
Well, that's the thing. By Meiser Sheni... No, let's not look at it that way. By Meiser Sheni, you can touch it and then not eat it. But if you want to eat it, you can't even touch it until you wash.
That's what I said. So
that's what you said?
I said if you touch
then you were correct.
If
you said like me, then you're correct.
Okay. But to clarify.
Yes. Spoken like a lawyer. Go ahead.
If, without yet forming a mental impression as to what you're going to do, you waive the opportunity to eat unless you wash beforehand.
Right. It's an interesting thing because, of course, when we put challah on the table nowadays, we don't wash before we put challah on the table. But if you came to put truma on the table, you'd have to wash before you touched it. I mean, it's simple. If you think about it, it's compelling because truma, since it was baked with moist water, so therefore it's suitable to be makabel tumah, it's suitable to become tamei. You can't touch it with hands which are tamei. But we never think of that. We think you just have to wash before you eat, not before you touch. So by truma you have to wash before you touch. By meiser, if you're going to eat it, then you must eat the wash even before you touch it. By chulin, which of course is everything we eat, then you only have to wash before you eat it. Okay?
What if you eat it by not touching with your hands? So you eat it with your mouth.
Well, that's what we say, that nevertheless there is a takana to wash. Put in a plastic bag. You hold in a plastic bag.
You don't touch it. Something separating your hands from
or gloves.
So like plastic gloves, like what they wear in Dillon.
It could be even leather gloves. All right. In any event, I hope that didn't get on tape. Says the letter further.
Are they used for that purpose? Plastic?
People will do that even though they're not supposed to.
But there's no truma anymore anyhow, is there?
Doesn't matter, but there's still blanket the decree to wash before you eat chulin.
I understand that, but
it's not at the same level.
For truma are no longer
right. They're no longer.
There's no longer any truma.
No, it's no longer applicable. True. What? Oh, bread. Right, only bread.
Although I could say
that. Not fruit.
Yeah, but sometimes we do wash. Some people do wash for fruit. It's a matter of custom nowadays. I mean, the Shulchan Aruch does bring down, the opinion to wash for fruit, but it's not everybody is rigorous about that.
Could that be because of the Sephardic origins of portions of the Shulchan Aruch?
No, I don't think so. I think it's right here in the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi gave a proposal before that the dichotomy. Oh, not here. I'm sorry. I mentioned before that the Bavli says the dichotomy between bread and fruit. The Yerushalmi doesn't mention that dichotomy, but the Bavli mentions dichotomy. The Bavli says by bread it's mandatory, by fruit it's voluntary.
But if Shulchan Aruch says you must wash before eating food as well,
I think it brings on both things. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I might be making that up because I didn't look it up obviously tonight. But I think the Shulchan
Aruch have had more familiarity with Yerushalmi.
No, less.
So what he had came from here, presumably, before it was transmuted by what's his name?
Yeah, but I don't remember who says what, so you can't catch me on that.
I'm trying to catch you.
No, but you might be right, but I can't say whether you're right or wrong. That's the problem. Okay, so I didn't mean catch in the sense.
I think it's an interesting point.
Yeah. No, but generally, I saw that the scholars hold, although I don't think it's true. I think it's a lot of baloney. But the scholars say that Ashkenazi practice follows more the Yerushalmi, ancient Ashkenazi practice, before things became mixed, cross-pollination. But ancient Ashkenazi practice before the infiltration of the Shulchan Aruch was more like the Yerushalmi, and ancient Sephardi practice was more like the Bavli. So, for what it's worth, that's what they say. Okay, I can't vouch for these.
That's counterinstinctual.
No, it's not, because the Sephardim are actually a migratory result of the Babylonian exile, where the Talmud Bavli was supreme, whereas the Italians came directly from the land of Israel, where the Yerushalmi was supreme. So and then they spread from Italy throughout Germany and France.
But the mode of argument in Bavli is
true,
much more European.
But that's true. But that has to do with the way of learning, not with the
choices.
Yeah. Okay. So it says more further. Below, ask Gemara. So Gemara shoots this down. Actually, Gemara says, "Below rota locho rota liga." I understand. Anytime you're coming to eat, you're coming to touch, right? So therefore, by definition, you have to always wash, or actually it reads both ways. If you touch, it's because you want to eat. If you're eating, because you want to touch. Why is it? How can you draw such a distinction? Says El Mishum Netilas Sprach. So the Gemara says an interesting thing. The Gemara says that here the reason why you have to wash is because in chulin, the truth is chulin, we really don't care if it becomes tummy or not. But since the people get mixed up between chulin and truma, so that's why made you wash regardless. Literally, swach means drag the law. But Nina, and then we learn. Now, that's why Meiser Sheni gets dragged on. I apologize. Now I'm going to learn like the Shari Torah says, the soul changes the two words in this line of Truma to Chulin. Didn't we learn our Mishnah Chulin, V'chiesh b'Chulin, Mibnei Shum Netilas Rach? By Chulin, how are you going to get mixed up between Truma and Chulin? Between Truma and Meiser Sheni, understands it's both restricted forms of food, so you get mixed up. But how are you getting mixed up between Chulin and Meiser Sheni, between Chulin and Truma? So it says the Gemara, El b'Chulin shenaso gav taras hakodesh. Let's say it's talking about a type of individual. There were holy types of people like this in the land of Israel who ate their Chulin, who ate their regular stuff, as if it was holy, as if it had been brought to the Beis HaMikdash. Says the Gemara, that won't work either. Actually, I should have read the whole thing as a question. Well, actually not. That doesn't help. To chulin which are made, even you made them with meticulous, precise fussiness as the remaining tar. Right? So nevertheless, the whole concept of eating your chulin as if it's to kodesh is just a charade. It's just a fiction, right? Because it's just like chulin. So it says the Gemara. So therefore, why by chulin do I have to wash? What's the safeguard? It's so different than truma. So it says more one of two reasons. The part to resolve with Okra b'Shem ben Elazar, Okra ben Elazar Rabbi Tzadok. You like Rabbi Shem Elazar, like Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Tzadok. Okay, Rabbi Shimon Elazar, you know like Rabbi Shimon Elazar, Tani Rabbi Shimon Elazar, Oimer, it says, Mishra Meir, Nei Rav Meir, Hayadayim tchila l'chulin. We had this already before. Hands are considered to be tchila, first degree tamei vis-a-vis chulin. Ushnios the truma, the second degree tamei vis-a-vis truma. And therefore, you always have to wash even before you eat chulin. Why? Because even before you eat chulin, since you're carrying something which is first degree tamei, it can make your chulin tamei as well. Okay. That's one way of learning a Mishnah. Why the Mishnah requires washing for chulin? Oh, Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Tzadok, Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Tzadok. The Tzniya Torah learned over there. The first time on this brayso says chulin shenaso gabi kodesh chulin, which you made as if it's holy. Harei chulin, it's just like chulin, and therefore the question is why should you have to wash it? However, Lazar, Rabbi Tzadok, Mer Harei elu kitruma. Chulin shnaso taskosh. If you made your chulin as if it's tahar, as if it's as if it's on the level of kodesh, sarelu k'truma, then that chulin itself you have to wash for because it had status as if it's truma. L'tamei shnayim, that first degree and second degree are tamei, and livso echad, and to make 1 degree to pasul, meaning that the second degree makes third degree, but third degree does not make fourth degree. Okay, I just put punctuation where I want to put it in place. What? $14.95 from Levenger, plus postage.
This is also from Lebanon, $30.
Levenger's a good place for cheap fountain pens. Yeah, I'm on sale. Okay, so that's more. Kodesh Mabilin. For Kodesh, it's really admiring it. Here, you can open up and take a look. Gee whiz. Do not covet your neighbor's property. He's paid twice as much.
No, I have a different one.
I can't tell if it's...
Well, you're colorblind?
No, I'm trying to make you feel bad.
Okay, wait for the sales. Who's right? Says the Gemara, Kodesh Matbilin. For Kodesh, you have to dunk your hands. Now, this is an interesting concept. We don't really have this nowadays. If you want to eat a korban, we of course don't have korbanos nowadays. You have to dunk your hands in a mikveh. Now, again, it's rabbinic because the rice of you got to go to the mikveh, you got to go to the mikveh. You can't just dunk your hands in. But they had such a concept. So it says more Kohen Tetzina Matbilin. Anytime it says you have to dunk your hands, Barboim Sa'anan Kayomin. So you have to dunk it into real mikveh, 40 measures of rainwater. Says the Moravatin, and then we learn on Noitel Yodav Lemikdash. If somebody washes hands in order to enter the base of Mikdash Turkavis, only needs 3 ounces or 4 ounces, like any other time you wash. All right, Lazar said it depends. Can be a dime tomatoes, can be a dime Torah. It depends if your hands were tamei or Torah. If your hands are tamei with a rabbinic tumah, then you have to dunk them. If they're Torah and you're just washing before entering the base of Mikdash, because the Allah is supposed to wash before you enter the base of Mikdash, then all you need is those several ounces of water. You don't need to go to dunk your hands in the mikvah. That's one answer. All right, the son of Ravil said, "I feel tamer kama kami adayim Torah." So you can say in both places you're talking about hands which are Torah, or kama kami adayim tomatoes. In both cases, talking about hands which are Torah. What's the difference? When do you have to dunk them? When can you just wash them? When you're coming to eat korbanos, then you have to actually dunk your hands in the mikveh. But when you're actually eating chulin, which is erzatz kodesh, meaning you're just regarding as if it's kodesh, so then all you have to do is wash your hands. You don't have to actually have to dunk them into a mikveh. Okay? Now, there's an extra special level of tahara which they preserved for the porah aduma, for the red heifer. And the reason why that was because they did the red heifer with extra degree of kedusha, of tahara, purity, because the last step, when they actually did the sprinkling, they would take somebody who was a tvul yom, who had an emission or something, and had to go to the mikveh and had not yet come to nightfall, because it's stoking the Sadducees held that to be done with somebody who's completely Torah. And we wanted to prove them wrong and say even somebody who's a Tvul Yom could do it. So in order to show that it wasn't because we had a disregard for Tumah, so we were inordinately careful in the rest of the process to make sure whoever did it was absolutely, completely Torah, right? So therefore, for a Chatos, for Porah Aduma, even if just your hands became Tomei, and of course there's a rabbinic tumah, it's as if your whole body became Tomei and you have to go to the mikveh. Amar Achina said, Lo shechichu tumah. Now I don't know exactly what Rabbi Chanina wants, or Chananya. Says, Lo shechichu tumah l'chatos. It's not that they said there's a new concept of tumah called tumah vis-a-vis a red heifer. El Arma, they said, Hamatami tumah kal, some of you became tummy in a lighter tumah, Kimatami tumah chamur, it's as if he became tummy in a more severe tumah.
How many people would have had exposure to tumah vis-a-vis a red heifer?
A lot. Because they had to gather water, and they had to actually burn wood in order to make ashes. So there are a whole bunch of processes involved to actually get. I know a lot, but several people.
So if you were a water carrier or a wood gatherer,
they would make sure they're absolutely pure.
Even though that would be as close as you would get to the red.
Right. It would be inordinate, beyond necessity, in order to prove that point. Because we have that axe to grind, that the last step we make the guy into full yom. Okay. So Rabbi Yaakov Racham Shem Eliezer said, "V'asaf ishtar," it says, to a person who's tahor should gather. Matam lomar tahor. Why does it say he has to be tahor? Hagatz mucha. Imagine this. Afilat also magrefa comes to tell us that even if he's gathering with a fork, he doesn't touch the ashes themselves. Amra Torah, the Torah said that he has to be Torah. He has to be a Torah person. Says Maramanakim, what are we talking about? Imagrave Shematev, was we're talking about a metal like rake or whatever it is, shovel to gather the ashes. It's obviously, if he's Tomei, he's going to make the vessel Tomei, and that's going to make the ashes Tomei. Because metal transmits tumah. If it's a wooden shovel, so it says more. It also will transmit tumah. And here the gears is a bit iffy. How to read it should be not lo komid machmas dover tomei means, although it means so he does not stand because it's tomei, but that's not what it means here. It means is that any shovel has a receptacle. And receptacles makes a wooden vessel tummy, right? A shovel has something to hold stuff. That's its whole concept.
Why don't you take a wooden spoon with an extra one?
For that way, okay. So it says, Amar Rav Pater, how do you gather it? You gather also Benesser, you gather with a beam. Right? So the beam has no receptacle, it's a straight board. So it says, well, that's still no good. Maybe he's going to carry it, and if he's tummy and he carries it, so some tmeim, not all, but sometimes when they carry stuff, the stuff they carry become tummy. So it says, "Moram Rabbi Yudan and Avoid Rabbi Masanya." Rabbi Yudan, the father of Rabbi Masanya, said, "He put also of a melter of." You gather. You're right. You have to gather pour aduma ashes with a thick beam. If you gather a thick beam, it's too heavy to pick up. So if it's too heavy to pick up, so you're not going to make the ashes tummy. Okay.
So you gotta push.
You have to push it, right? You push with the beam at the ashes to make it one pile.
But there's still this concept that wood as well as metal transmits.
It doesn't. Only if it has a receptacle in it. So it's a wooden spoon does, but just a straight twig or a block of wood does not.
So a wooden coffee spoon needs to go to mikvah.
Yeah, it becomes tummy.
If it becomes tummy.
Yeah, but we don't do that nowadays. They're all tummy. We don't do anything about it because we're meticulous on that halacha. We're not only not meticulous, we don't observe it because we're all tummy anyway. So what difference does it make? That's our perspective.
Sounds Catholic.
What can I do? Some things they stole from us.
Original sin.
Okay? Original tumah, it's not sin. It's not a sin. So it says, well, but we do believe in original sin, but not for now. Says more further. Catholics are nutty, but not that nutty. So not everything they do is wrong. Okay? Says more further. Basab ish tohar. Sorry. Rabbi Memo boy kumi Rabbi Yami. Rabbi Rabbi Ma bin Adam tar lechatos. What's the difference between a person who's tar vis-a-vis the mother red heifer, kli reik on tar lechatos, and an empty vessel, which is tar, which is intended for the purpose of a paraduma. Now this is a funny thing. The funny thing is like this: there's a gzeira There was once a time when a fellow was transporting Porah Aduma ashes, and he went in a ship. When he got off the ship, they found that somehow wedged into the ship's beams was parts of a corpse. And they made a gzeira, oive, from now we're not allowed to take Porah Aduma in ships. Because who knows, there's not going to be a corpse in the ship. The trick is, like the Kohanim traveling the airplanes. The catch is, they didn't make a gzeira not to transport the vessels to be used for the Porah Aduma ritual in a boat. That's what I was asking, why do they make a gzeira on the vessels? So the Bible gives an answer. It says, Meiser shoya kachoya. They found that something happened vis-a-vis a guy who was carrying the ashes. They never had a problem with the transportation of vessels, so they retained the capacity to transfer vessels. But Yerushalmi doesn't accept that answer. Yerushalmi asks, what's the difference? Amalei, so he said, I'll tell you why, because it says by the person who's gathering that we have to have a higher degree of ensuring his tara. Because it says, Amalei v'asaf ish tohor, which says it should be gathered by a tohor person. Matam lomer ish, why say ish? It's a person, let's just say a tor. Somebody who's tor, and we know it's talking about persons, not talking about monkeys. Elite tara me'ula means we have to ensure extra special tara la'ish la'aso, so the person who's doing it, k'mei chatos u'kei for chatos, in the area of the waters for the Porah Aduma and in the ashes of the Porah Aduma. Rabbi Hashem Lucky said, "Hesed shetiarti l'cha b'sheretz timesi l'cha kan." He said that the Torah said that normally the way this is how we darshan safish tohar, it should be gathered by a person's door. Normally, if you push a sheretz, if you push a dead rodent, it doesn't make you tamei. But here they decreed that you push a dead rodent, it makes you tamei vis-a-vis Porah Aduma. Now, of course, it's not the raisa. Certainly not the raisa, because it can't be any tumah in that case. But the Rabbanan said, since it says Vasafi Shtor, from this you gather, the person gathers as be extra special Torah. So even if he pushes a dead rodent, now he doesn't touch it, he pushes it, that already makes him tamei vis-a-vis the halacha Porah Aduma. Again, because the extra special madrega we gave to this story.
Pushes it with what?
What?
Pushes it with what?
Anything. A rake, anything. Even a 2x4, yeah. Because it's not a question of transmission. That's it's actually, the next rest of the paragraph is going to speak about this, so we should just say a few words about that. It's a concept which we rarely come across rarely in Shas, probably in Yerushalmi, called Tumas Hesed. Hesed means when you're mitame something, or become tamei from something when you push it or shove it. Even though you don't push it or shove it with something which is mekabel tumah, right? You push it or shove it with something which does become tamei. Nonetheless, you become tamei, or it becomes tamei. And the classic case is the case of the Greeks in the Beis HaMikdash, when they had the vial of oil, which was sealed. Had a Greek actually pushed it or moved it, then it would have been tamei. That's why some of the Rishonim say it wasn't just found a sealed jug, but it was found in a sealed cabinet, in order to preclude that problem of somebody tamei, a Greek, having actually pushed it.
Does that relate to the rules in kosher related to kosher wine?
Wine? Not very remotely. There's similar parameters, but not exactly the same.
But if you have this heavy 2x4,
yeah,
it's too heavy to lift. It's used to push the ashes.
It would still, and you were tamei, it would still make the ashes tamei. Yeah, okay. That's what we're saying.
Or vice versa.
Right, if you push a dead rodent. Only normally by rodents it's not a problem, only vis-a-vis Porah Aduma. It's only a problem usually if you push a dead person or something like that. Okay, says the Mishnah further. Hatoy v'l'chulin. This is a very interesting halacha again, which is not relevant nowadays, but nonetheless it's interesting. Hatoy v'l'chulin, if I go to the mikveh and I have mine, hilin, imuchon, imsuman, to go to the mikveh for the purpose of eating chulin. Purpose of regulating stuff. And now he's assumed to be Torah vis-a-vis chulin. Aser meiser, still not allowed to eat meiser sheni. Kavana counts by mikveh. Similarly, our Tevil meiser, if you went to mikveh intent to eat meiser, Vuksa meiser, you assume that you're Torah meiser. Also, truma, now allowed to eat truma until you go to the mikveh for truma. Ha'toivel l'truma, somebody who goes to mikvah for the purpose of truma. Vuchsa l'truma is soon to be tar for truma. Also, the kodesh is now lead to karbanos. And you know what's coming. Ha'toivel kodesh, somebody who goes to mikvah for karbanos. Vuchsa kodesh is soon to be tar vis-a-vis kodesh. Also, chatis is forbidden to go and do a paraduma until he has in mind the paraduma. Ha'toivel l'chomer, somebody has in mind to go to mikvah for the more severe thing. Hutar l'akal is permitted for the less severe thing as well, but not from the less severe to the more severe. Tavav l'uchsak, if you went to the mikvah and didn't have in mind anything, not for meiser, not for truma, kilo tavot, as if you didn't go to mikvah except vis-a-vis chulin. In other words, even they push you into a mikvah vis-a-vis chulin, you become tahor. But for anything else, you don't become tahor.
You didn't have to be tahor to begin with.
No, that's true. That's true. But I'll tell you where the difference is. A woman who's going to the mikvah, even if he's shoved in, she becomes tahor, and she's permitted to her husband, as opposed to because that's to be chulin. She doesn't need kavanah, right? Yeah, she hasn't had that need on. They pushed her over to the edge, so she becomes tahor. She doesn't need a tent, because that's also considered to be the status of chulin. Okay, says when we're chulin tzirkin kavanah. It's basically a variation on the theme of Dr. Spidel's question. Do you need kavanah for chulin? You need mikvah. You need kavanah. Says where the ruba asul meimar. No, it's coming to tell you a chiddush. Meimerloch, to tell you ruba in Aramaic means a chiddush. Afilu toivel chulin v'usag chulin. Tell you that even you don't need it, but even if you had in mind to toivel for chulin, also the ma'aser nati ma'aser sheni with that tefillah. Lo chen Rabbi Elazar, I understand. There it does say Kiminyan HaChulin, like the typology or category of Chulin came Minyan and Chul Meiser is the category of Meiser. And therefore they're the same parameters. So therefore, why do I need more Kavanah from Meiser? Says I tell you, Kan Lachila, Kan Lamagl. It's reverse to what we said on Omid Alf. For eating, there are differences. For touching, there are no differences. For touching, whatever allows you to touch Chulin allows you to touch Meiser. But for eating, there is differences, and intent to go to the mikvah for the purpose of chulin doesn't make you Torah vis-a-vis meiser sheni. Ha'toivel stop. What have you had in mind? I'm going to the mikvah for whatever I want, without specifying. Mutter v'kulin, you're allowed to use that tefillah for all of them. Rabbi Yochanan says, b'mezukah chulin, when he had to toivel for all of them. So it's because if he didn't have any truma on the horizon or any korban on the horizon, you can't say I'm toiveling perhaps for truma, perhaps for a kodshim. That's qualifying that. It says toivel time without thinking about whatever I have in my fridge. Now you're admiring the thermos? Oh, the tape recorder? It's just an empty shell. The shell is a defective shell. I get it for cheaper.
I see a violation of the U.S. Constitution before my eyes. I'm under an oath.
I get it discount for buying defective shells. It's not property U.S. government.
It's property.
All right, Elazar said. It says more. Odeu Raglam. Now this is a very interesting halacha, which appears in the Bible, but nowhere near, if I recall correctly, in the detail of Yerushalmi. Though I don't know Chagigah that well, so I don't remember necessarily. Odeu Raglam shukos b'mayim. Let's say you're coming out of the mikveh, and your feet are still in the water. And at that point you have in mind, you forgot. You had in mind to go to the mikveh for meiser, but now you remember you have truma at home. So you don't have to go back down. While your feet are still in the water, you can change your mind and say, I'm doing it for the purpose of truma. Okay? So, Masiga Odeh
Otherwise you have to go back down.
Yeah, otherwise you have to go back down.
Alberta.
All the way. Odeh Raglan, the water. Odeh Raglan, Mishukos, but mine. So you can change her and say whatever tire you want. Talmud that says tomorrow. Let's see. Over there we learned to makil shimalea mashkim tbei. If you have a stick which is full of beverages which are tummy, came and she shikola mikveh. Once you stick one end of the stick, not necessarily the whole thing, but mikveh mikveh tara, it's all tahar divrei b'shul, all the beverages in the stick. But chorei machiat pilos kula. Chachamim say you have to toivel the whole stick. Rashim ben Lakish Rashim ben Lakish says, "Mapli, where's there the machlokas between Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim? Betuma kala, by a lighter form of tuma. Betuma chamura, but it's a more stringent tuma. After Rabbi Yeshua also concedes the point that you have to dunk the whole stick in the water. Rabbi Yochanan betuma chamura pliga. Yochanan says also in a severe tumor, all you have to do is, according to Rabbi Yeshua, is dunk half the stick in the water, a part of the stick, not the entire stick. Says more L'chora Masnisa Pliga Rabbi Shimon Lakish. L'chora, the following the price which you quoted above, which we'll quote imminently again, by Shimon Lakish. Because there's so there Raglam Shukos B'Mayim, as long as his feet are still into the water, Masi Katul Chol Tar Shiur, so he can give himself whatever status of Tara he wants. So it means that you don't have to be completely immersed in the water. Just like the stick, just like here, all you have to be is partially immersed, only even your feet. So too the stick only has to be partially immersed in the water in order for it to work, right?
So you immerse yourself, and then you get out, you get your feet in the water, and then you think of all the other reasons you might have had.
And that works. So that's a proof against her Shurish Lakish. Because we see that it's still considered to be in the mikveh.
He's on his way out of the mikveh where he had already been totally.
Yeah, why should that make a difference? It's a chiluk, but why should that make a difference?
Because if you're going into the mikveh.
No, but there the water is connected in the stick. In other words, we're not interested in toiveling the stick. The stick anyway is going. We're toiveling the water in the stick, and that's as connected as it's going to be, right? That should be still connected. That's the Gemara is assuming. Why is that the need total immersion? I understand what you're saying, but the Gemara doesn't draw that distinction. So it says the Gemara, Pasar law. So Reish Lakish will say our Mishnah, the Mishnah which says the Brisa says you can have it when even just your legs to the water is by a lighter tumah. But what's a lighter tumah? Ochlin tmeim v'shoysa mashkin tmeim. If you ate tamei food or drank tamei beverages, then to rice you don't become tamei, only the Rabbana. So their Reish Lakish says that works to change your intent even when you're halfway out of the water.
Should any sense tamei is non-kosher?
What?
Is there any sense in which tamei in this context?
No, it has to be kosher. It's all kosher.
It's all kosher.
Yeah, it's just tamei.
Contaminated
by tumah, by dead rodents and stuff. So it says more located on Rabbi Yaakov Erzadeh or Rabbi Lakish, and bringing a proof that it's to be light tumah, because it says the ochlin tmei top of Yudalit. Somebody eats food which is tamei, the choice of mashkin tmei or drinks beverages which are tamei. Gufo tor, his body is tor below kavana, without any intent. So we see that it's a lighter degree of tumah because you don't need any intent, unlike our Mishnah. And that's why Reish Lakish holds. In that case, you can even be partially immersed and still change your mind, is it? And there we say, Mikeva. Now here there's a difficult, Mikeva shenosan daitu latara me'ula mimena. Now, however, if you had in mind, I'm going to learn this way, it comes out from the Leiden manuscript. However, there's a catch. If you start thinking about a kavanah, in other words, you have in mind, I want this tara, that tara, then take out the word eno, then tzarech kavanah. In other words, if you don't have any intention in mind at the time you're going to mikveh after having eaten tummy foods, so it's a lighter tumah, so you're Torah for everything. But once you had started thinking, said, well, I want to be Torah for this, then it's only for this and not for that. Again, came and shenasan daitul l'tara. Once you had in mind what you want to become Tara Mula Mimena for a higher degree of Zatara, came shenasan daitul l'tara Mula Mimena tzarech kavana. Then for a higher degree of Tara you need kavana. Okay, so I think we'll have to stop here for tonight because of Dam Marvin. But we're still in the middle of this of Shita Shimon ben Lakish. Now whether we can prove it or disprove it. Ultimately, we're going to disprove it.
It's a difficult passage.
What?
Difficult passage.
This is difficult passage. It gets worse until the end of the Masechta.
So as you remove yourself from the mikveh, and you're standing there, you should blank your mind.
Well, now none of this applies nowadays because everything today is for chulin. But hypothetically, that would be an issue.
Hypothetically, well.
Anyway, a place like tomorrow night we have to quicken the pace. We're falling behind.
That's analogous to.
Okay. We're gonna go quick. I know it's new concepts, but we're gonna have to go quicker tomorrow night.
I don't know.